Welcome to the Vananswer Studio. Today I'm going to show you how to create this adorable bunny rabbit themed balloon arch. Now you can use any arch stand you'd like, but if you'd like to follow along exactly, I'm using this 6 foot wide by 6.5 foot tall circle arch from efavormart.com. Now on this arch, you're going to need to cover it with 136 white 11-inch balloons, and I'll be using my electric balloon inflator as well as a balloon sizer box to size all these balloons to 8 inches in diameter and then tie them into quads. So I'm going to inflate 2 balloons at a time until they're almost their full size, and then gently press them against the 8-inch hole in my balloon sizer box and slow the air out until they just fit through. I'm going to do that with both balloons, and then I'm going to tie them together into a pair by wrapping the nozzle around twice and tying them together in a simple knot. Then I'm going to take 2 of these pairs and join them together into a quad by overlapping them so that their nozzles touch right in the center, and then twist 1 balloon from each of those pairs around each other, locking them into a quad. I repeated this step until I had 34 quads in total. Next, we need to create the structure that will support our rabbit ears, and to do that, I'm using this 8-gauge copper grounding wire that I got at the hardware store, but you could use any modeling wire you like. First of all, I'm going to unwind it so it's pretty straight. Now this doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to be covered with balloons. We just need it flat enough that we can measure it easily. Lay your wire next to a tape measure and take a permanent marker and mark 4 feet in from the end. This will be the middle point for our ear. Then unwind 4 more feet of wire and mark that spot, giving us 8 feet total in wire. At that 8-foot mark, I'm going to take a pair of heavy-duty wire cutters and cut our wire free. On both ends of the wire, I'm going to make a mark 6 inches in, and at that point, put a 90-degree bend in both ends of the wire, and this is how we'll attach the ear to the arch frame. Find the center point of the wire that we marked earlier and put a gentle curve right at the top, giving it a 180-degree bend. Your wire ear should look something like this with both of those support feet facing outwards. Now once we've made 2 of these, we need to prepare the balloons that will cover it. For each ear, you're going to need 80 5-inch white balloons, and I'm going to use a hand pump to inflate each of these to 4 pumps of air, or about 4.5 inches in diameter, and then tie them together into pairs, just like we did the larger balloons. Now once you've created your pairs, set 2 of those aside as we'll need them later, and then all the rest of the pairs we're going to tie together into quads. Take your first quad and slip it over the wire frame of the ear right at the center point so that the nozzles of that quad are sitting right against the wire. Then take the 2 balloons with the wire in between them and twist them around each other, locking it in place. Orient this quad so 1 balloon faces out the front of the ear and 1 faces out the top. Now take 1 of those pairs we set aside earlier and slip it from the inside of that wire ear out towards the outer edge of the ear and place 1 of those balloons in the pair right in between the 2 balloons of that first quad. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side of that central quad, so I've got 2 pairs pointing upwards at the top of the ear, and this will help us make that sharp turn without having any gaps in our balloons. Now from that pair to the very end of the ear, we're going to attach 9 more quads. So slip them over the wire and then twist the 2 balloons with the wire in between them around each other, locking it in place. Nestle the quad right up against that pair, and this quad should be oriented in the exact same way our first quad was. Continue to add quads in this way, making sure they're nestled right up against the previous one, and 1 balloon of the current quad always sits in between 2 balloons of the quad before it. This will mean everything is nice and snug and we won't have large gaps in our balloons. Now once you've got all 9 quads added to the sides, you'll notice that there's about a 6-inch gap between that last quad and the foot of the wire, and that's to leave a space for our larger balloons once this is attached to the frame. Do the exact same thing on the left side of the ear until all the white balloons are attached, and then we can make the pink centers. Now the center is made up of 6 quads and 1 pair inflated to 4 pumps of air, just like we did the white balloons, and I'm going to tie all those together using an empty 260 balloon that I'm going to pinch the air out of and tie a knot in. Then take the end of that 260 balloon and tie it to 1 of the nozzles of that first quad using a double knot. Set this quad flat on a table, and then on top of it, set your second quad, making sure 1 balloon of this quad is nestled in between 2 of the balloons of the quad below it. Then take your 260, bring it up through the center of that new quad, and then wrap it in a figure 8 pattern around 2 of the balloons of the new quad, and that will secure them together. I repeated these steps until all 6 quads were tied together, and then I added the pair on top. So I nestled it between 2 balloons and then just wrapped that remaining 260 tail around it a couple times, and that will hold it in place. Now we can join the 2 parts of our ear together into a singular piece. So take the pink center and make sure the pair on top is oriented so one balloon faces the front of the ear and one balloon faces out the back side of the ear, and this tapered shape will allow it to fit snugly in the top of the ear. Then you're going to take the remaining 260 tail from the top of the pink pair and tie it to one of the nozzles from that first quad we placed at the very center of the top of the ear. This will keep it nice and tight to the top, and then we're going to join the bottom together with an empty 260 balloon. Tie the end of that 260 to one of the nozzles in the last white quad of the outside edge of the ear, and then you're going to gently stretch that 260 and wrap it around a couple of the balloons of the last quad in the pink center before wrapping the remaining 260 tail around the last white quad on the opposite side of the ear. Tie the 260 tail to one of the nozzles in that last quad, and that'll keep all of the balloons in the ear nice and snug together. Make 2 matching ears in this way, and then we can attach them to the top of our arch frame. Each ear is going to be placed about 12 inches from the top center point of my arch, and that will leave about a 2-foot gap between the ears at the top of my frame. I secured the wire feet of my ears to the frame using a couple pieces of clear packaging tape, and to make that process easier, I actually cut a couple pieces of tape ahead of time so that while I was holding the ears, I wasn't struggling to pull pieces of tape off the reel. I aligned the wire of the ear with that 1-foot mark from the center point, and then I put a piece of clear packaging tape on the end of that wire foot, and then another piece right up against that 90-degree bend, so it had a lot of support. I did this with both feet, and that was usually enough to keep it in place, but you will see that the ears are pretty floppy because at this point they're unsupported. Once we get those 8-inch balloons in there, that is what will stabilize our ears. So grab one of those 8-inch quads and slip it over the top of the arch frame and nestle it right up against the wire of one of the ears and twist it around the frame, locking it in place. Now you want to orient this first quad so that 2 balloons are on the front side of the ear and 2 balloons are sitting behind the ear. Attach a second quad right next to it and nestle these balloons so one balloon is sitting in between 2 balloons of the quad next to it. Do the exact same thing on the inside of the other ear, but I accidentally left out one balloon quad. You should actually have 5 quads between the 2 ears so that they can nestle nice and snugly together in the gaps between each of the quads. I kind of fudged it a little bit with the rotation of the balloons, but you definitely need 5 so your ears are well supported. Attach one balloon quad right underneath the ear and make sure one balloon out of that quad is pointing straight up into the pink balloons at the center of the ear so that there aren't any gaps between the ear and the edge of the arch. Place the next quad on the outside edge of the wire support of the ear, making sure 2 balloons are on the front and 2 balloons are in the back. If we look at the arch from the side, you can see how the balloons of the ear are sitting right between the 2 balloons of the quad right next to that wire, and that's what will make sure our ears don't flop over. From here, we just keep adding the white quads onto the arch frame until you can't see any of that gold arch peeking through. To camouflage the base of our circle arch, as well as give our bunny rabbit a bit more pizzazz, I made some grass out of these green 260 balloons that I fully inflated and then let a little bit of air out so they're nice and soft. I found the halfway point and pinched the balloon right there and twisted it around a couple times. I then joined 3 of these 260s together by overlapping them right in the center, and then where those center twists are, twisted 2 of those 260s around each other, locking them into this grass clump. After slipping the third 260 in the exact same way, I then folded all of them upright so that the twist was at the very bottom and all of the ends of the 260s are pointing upwards. Wrap an empty 260 balloon around all of these 260s a couple inches up from the twist, and then just tie it with a double knot. You can use the tail ends of these 260s to tie multiple clumps of grass together and to tie the grass to the frame. I bent the 260 balloons in different spots to give the grass more of a lifelike look and take up more volume. Once I was happy with the shape of all the blades of grass, it was then time to add in our Easter eggs. These are simply 11-inch polka dot balloons that I inflated until they're a nice oval shape, and I'm going to take a pair of scissors and cut away the excess nozzle so we get a nice clean look. I nestled this balloon right next to my grass, finding a place that I liked the look of it, and then I'm going to secure it in place using a couple of these glue dashes. So I'm going to stick the egg to the grass directly so that the balloon doesn't just roll away. I did this a couple more times so we've got a burst of color and texture right at the base of our bunny rabbit design. If you'd like a little extra guidance in building your own bunny rabbit arch, I've got a set of written plans linked in the description box below. They include detailed illustrations, written plans, and a complete supply list to go along with today's project. If you enjoyed today's bunny build, you should check out this tutorial where I walk you step by step through the process of making a giant balloon carrot. So until the next time, remember, stay creative everybody!